So, it's been a while since we've had a talk about BattleBit Remastered here on the channel, folks, and while the fact that I've been heavily enlisted in spreading some managed democracy across the galactic war has had some influence on that, it's also because there's simply not a whole lot to talk about in the BattleBit universe right now. We've seen a couple of tidbits of info here and there through devcasts in particular about the now coined update 3.0.0 that is coming to the game. That's kinda it, and we're sort of in this, I want to say, holding pattern, waiting for what's next for BattleBit to drop. Now, the update is taking a long time to come out. We know it's addressing the sound design of the game, the animations, it's bringing a couple of new maps, an overhaul of attachments, some balancing changes. BattleBit is going to basically feel like a brand new game when the update is done, and that effort/workload can't be brushed aside. But there's also no denying that the time it has taken to get the update out, along with some other factors, has had a very big impact on the player retention of the game right now. And given the game is in early access, I think that gives us a really good opportunity to do a bit of a retrospective on BattleBit thus far, and whether there are some learnings here that may help the game in the future. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today folks, let's take stock of BattleBit Remastered in April 2024 to see how it's currently positioned in the market, and again, what learnings there are to take from it. So yeah, obviously folks, the scope of this next update for BattleBit is massive. In fact, I'd go as far to say that this will be BattleBit's biggest update to this date, which seems to be the narrative I have with every update for this game, but more on that later. Now, that in itself is exciting in a way. It'll give the game a new lease on life, and will feel fresh in its own right. From a gameplay perspective, the improved audio is going to hopefully make the game more enjoyable to play and give clearer feedback to the player in identifying threats. We also know that the entire animation system is being reworked to match the improved audio, and there is a new tack sprint mechanic even coming to the game as a part of the animation overhaul. Overall, we know the gameplay of BattleBit itself already feels pretty modern and pretty tight, at least in my view, and the changes to the audio/animations are all looking to tighten up the presentation of the game to give it a bit more sensory appeal, which is all well and good. And I want to preface what I'm about to say next with this, folks. I have gone on the record multiple times here on this channel, urging developers to take their time in ensuring that the quality of the game that they are building is there upon release. The game needs to work on release, the content needs to be there to justify the price, and the game needs to earn a right to monetize after it release if it seeks to do so. BattleBit has satisfied all of these criteria on its launch, which is exactly why it was so successful at launch. But at the risk of coming across like an armchair game developer, I feel like the current position that BattleBit has in the market right now is an opportunity for some really hard lessons to be taught, and it all comes from a place of love as somebody who loves what the game is now and loves what it could be down the line. But in the current gaming market, we all know how hard it is to maintain the attention of your audience after a game comes out and after its, let's call it, initial hype section, if you will. The competition with the industry is more fierce than it ever has been. There are so many games that demand what can almost be called an exclusive attention of their audience, just so that they can keep up with what's happening in the game, which then ultimately means to more microtransactions for the game in question. Now, this seesawing of attention is always going to be heavily dependent on the sways of major game releases, updates, content patches, and or new seasons, of which, depending on the success of the content drop, will bring the game in question back into the scope of relevancy for at least a moment. Now, BattleBit saw that huge influx of players when it released into early access. It blew the expectations for release clear out of the water, and it held relevancy through being the Battlefield game that everyone was truly wanting but was never getting. And for a while there, BattleBit was good at releasing timely updates, bringing out new content, addressing balance issues, and adding more features to the game. Thus, it held its relevancy and it held its player count for a good amount of time there. However, as we all know, BattleBit has not had a significant update for a long time now. I want to say the last major update to the game that brought content or significant changes to it was December/November last year. right? So we're almost 3 to 4 months down the timeline now. That said though, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below. That's just where my memory's taking me, but I could be very, very wrong about that. And because of the lack of updates, I think that's very much pushed BattleBit out of the realm of relevancy as of late. I think that's a pretty fair statement to make. While yes, the game at its core is good and there's a lot to love here, there's only so many Wackistan bridge pushes you can do before it loses its charm. And to be clear, that's not me sitting here saying the game is dead. Games across the market go through periods of relevancy all the time, and there's still a small but dedicated community playing BattleBit regularly. But it's also unhealthy to sit here, huffing a respectable amount of copium and turning a blind eye to the very real truth that BattleBit has fallen outside of relevancy in the gaming community due to its lack of updates, which again I think is a fair statement to make. Now, the prospective update 3.0.0 is very likely to bring a lot of players, both new and veteran, back to the game in some capacity. But if you guys remember, there was a very particular point I mentioned at the start of the video that spoke to just how common the narrative was that this is BattleBit's biggest update yet. Now that's genuinely not me just throwing in some YouTuber jargon to try and get more clicks. It genuinely feels like to me that BattleBit and the developers are at times trying to outdo themselves with every major update. Something bigger, better, or maybe even something that isn't large from a content perspective, but is a big change from a gameplay balancing perspective that requires a lot of consideration of feedback to get right. The point is, the BattleBit developers are clearly ambitious, and they want to see their ambition delivered to a high degree of quality. I have nothing but respect for that, and they've never failed to deliver on that quality to this date. However, my concern lies that, as a player looking in from the outside, is that we have 3 highly passionate developers seeking to tackle a mountain of work that is built for 5, 10, 20, maybe even 40 developers, a full-blown studio. Look, I don't have the exact numbers because, again, I'm not a game developer, I don't have that insight to the industry, so on and so forth, but I know that the things that the BattleBit developers are trying to tackle typically doesn't sit within the remit of 3 people to do, right? And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the gaming industry is a time-sensitive one once your game goes out to the public. You have to be somewhat timely in delivering content to your player base to keep them interested in this gaming market. The BattleBit developers have the quality and the concept behind them to make them a market leader for the long haul. The launch of the game proved that. But I fear that they are dreaming very big for a 3-man team. And when the deadlines on the updates keep slipping over and over and over again, which for update 3.0.0 it has, even your most patient players are going to start running to other titles in search of something fresh. And while yes, it's true, player counts don't mean everything as to whether or not a healthy community is present or not, so on and so forth, BattleBit is ultimately a multiplayer only game, right? You can have all of the groundwork present to say that your game is epic, it's awesome, it's got everything it needs to be a good game, but if it's a multiplayer only game, the players are your content. They're the ones that generate the interactions and the experiences that the other players in the game will have. And it's also a reflection of the variety of experiences that will be available to your players in each region. Right now, for the ANZ region, you'll be lucky to get 1 full server a night. Gone are the days where you could switch between game modes of all shapes and sizes. I've not played a rush game in BattleBit in over 4 months. And as for the cash run game mode that I played in the earliest days of early access, I've not seen that mode in even longer despite how much bloody fun it was. And while yes, there have been other big things happening in the gaming industry like Power World and Helldivers that have taken players away from BattleBit, a lack of updates definitely means that your player base is going to bleed faster, which is then going to lead to less gameplay variety and your snowball at that point. BattleBit's developers are passionate about getting good, high-quality updates to their players to improve their game. But unfortunately, the enemy of finished is perfection. While I completely understand the want to get everything out right on the first try, and it's a very welcome change of perspective in this industry as of late, let me tell you, perfection means that you will never finish something. There will always be something to improve on, and I think the BattleBit developers have a real tendency to seek perfection while also going for grand, large-scale updates. We've also talked about the game's self-inflicted identity crisis a couple of times here on the channel as well, and how I think the developers have been somewhat conflicted about the kind of game that they want to create. Between you and me, thank God it's not the milsim route. It does speak to the burden that comes from trying to make large, grand, sweeping changes to your game long after it's released, right? And as we've seen, that conflict, that confusion, I'm even going to word it as, does leave the community with lacking content for a longer period of time. I want to make one thing abundantly clear here. I'm not sitting here attempting to armchair dev. I'm not a game developer, I'll never pretend to be one, I'm just a vested interest in the game's future who is relatively well versed in how the reality of the gaming space operates from a player mentality perspective, right? And I want to see BattleBit succeed for the long run. The developers have said that the pace of updates they were operating at previously when the game just came out was unhealthy for them all, and I don't want to see them return to that, obviously not. Their health must come first. But on the flip side, I also acknowledge that, well, there's a harsh reality attached to shifting gears a bit and not putting an update to the game out for a very long time as you work on bigger things that are obviously going to take more man hours to accomplish. And the nature of developing a multiplayer-only game means that if your players start to lose interest, other players will start to lose interest by sheer proximity and lack of experiences available. And because of that, player count does matter. That is just a harsh reality of this industry, and maintaining that player count means maintaining regular, consistent updates to a certain extent. Now, whether this is managed by hiring on more developers to further assist with these large-scale updates, or focusing on smaller, bite-sized updates that are far more manageable for the delivery times of the current team, or neither, and just managing community expectations, I'm not sure. But we all know BattleBit has a lot of potential here, and realizing that potential while maintaining the interest of the players is a hell of a balance to master. And I think the BattleBit developers have got a lot of work on their hands to identify what that balance looks like going forward. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed sitting down with me and sort of, pondering on this for a brief moment. If you've got some thoughts, feel free to share them in the comment section down below, as I'd love to hear where your guys' thoughts in relation to BattleBit sits right now. If you guys enjoyed the video, a backhanding of the like button will go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you're new here, get subscribed. We're doing a lot of content on a variety of stuff right now, and it'd be great to have you along for the journey here. When BattleBit Update 3.0.0 hits, we'll definitely be doing a video or two on that, so very keen to get that out to you guys too. But once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.